Hey, I don't know if you follow me on Substack, but I do send AI newsletter twice a week. So while I do cover whatever happens in AI through the video by adding my extra thoughts and my suggestions on things, I also have a newsletter going where I not only publish top AI news, but it does kind of walk you through some important bits. And it also kind of talks about the product launches and some AI news. So definitely go ahead and check the newsletter out if you are looking to kind of keep up to date with new things in AI. And I'm not going to jump into the pleasantries. If you are new to the channel, this is Yash. I spent 10 years in AI before this, and I love talking and learning about AI now. And I appreciate all the love that is coming from you guys. And I'm grateful that I'm able to help you guys in any way possible. Either ways, let's get into the video. So this week was interesting for smaller language models and not the larger language models. Now, don't be mistaken, there were some announcements on the lines of large language models as well. But primarily, this was the week for small language models. So Microsoft announced Phi-3, which is a very interesting concept of SLM and not the LLM. So SLM is like a small language model that is again capable of doing things, but not at the scale of large language model and can work efficiently because it's primarily fine-tuned for smaller tasks. So now if you take a large language model like GPT-4 or Claude 3, these models go through a large training data set. So if I want to build a model like GPT-4, I'll just scrape everything from the internet, train a model. Now it has both the right answers and the wrong answers, right? And which kind of introduces the concept of hallucination, and it kind of falters on certain benchmarks. When I say falter on certain benchmarks, it's probably because it has both the good and the bad answers, and sometimes it can give out the wrong answers. But what happens if you take all the right answers in the world and train a model based on that? Well, effectively, that is what SLMs or Phi-3 that you're looking here essentially is, right? So how this was trained is that a researcher was reading a story to his daughter, and it decided to create like a small model of that. He created a bunch of short stories based on those words, and he called the dataset tiny stories, and then trained a model based on the tiny stories that he generated using a different large language model. Now, after the small model was trained on these stories, the model was extremely accurate. So what they did is that they generated even more stories and trained a model. They called the dataset, I think, the code textbook, and they released what is today called Phi-1, which was the initial version of Phi-3. This model is well optimized for mobile phones, and it also beats Claude 3 on certain parameters. It also beats Llama 3, which is again an open source model, and kind of beats the smaller variation of that model. Now note that this model is 3.8 billion parameters, while the Llama 3 model is 8 billion parameters. Now, the reason why it does beat the model in the first place is because it was trained on the good answers and not combination of both good and the bad answers, which is what Llama 3 was essentially trained on. And it's well optimized for mobile phones, which kind of gave me a hint that Apple is trying to get into the market of mobile phones where Google was kind of supreme for some time now with their Gemini Nano. And I probably thought the Gemini Nano partnership with Apple and Google will probably be in jeopardy now that Microsoft has released their own Phi-3 model, which is better than Gemma or Gemini Nano model. Then the very next day, OpenELM was announced. This is Apple's own model for mobile phones. Note that Apple acquired a bunch of different startups. They acquired 13 in 2023 and 2 startups this year. One of those startups was Data, and Dataka Labs is effectively a company that specializes in building smaller language models. And the very next day, they announced that they are releasing OpenELM, an efficient language model trained for specifically mobile phones. And this, my gut says that this is something they're going to be planning to use in the iPhones, given that they have WW coming in June. They're probably trying to ramp up and add new AI features for the iPhones, right? So this is very interesting because they were in talk with Google Gemini, and I don't know, after the release of this model and acquisition of Dataka Labs, that still holds true. So again, the reason why I said this was an interesting week for small language models is because now mostly, I think at this point of time, Claude 3 Opus is like the top large language model, and mostly the market of large language model is more or less now settled, with the leaders being Claude, GPT, and on the open source side being Llama 3, right? So what these companies are now trying to do is win the smaller smartphone market, which is actually a more production relevant use case. Now note that does not make much sense for open source companies to release smaller models, because the people who are going to be optimizing these models for the end users to use are essentially the companies that own the OS. So it does make sense for the larger companies who have both the manpower and the access to the operating system kind of work on something like that, or integrating AI or building small models for the mobile phones. So again, this was second, and the third one this week, and this is very, very interesting, is this video, right? Did not make a lot of noise on social media, but someone got deepfake of them looking like a girl. So let's play this. They're talking about something. I'm kind of trying to struggle to understand which one is real. I'm assuming obviously the one with the girl is the deepfake and the one with the guy is the actual video. But look at the realism of the video, right? Even when the person is eating, it looks super realistic. And I'm really impressed. This is happening in real time, probably one frame at a time. So every time something is recorded, that frame is directly converted into a deepfake, and then you can see it on the screen here. He's probably wore a wig because it cannot generate the hair just yet, but having a wig makes it super realistic. At this point, I can only think how weird social media is going to get in the future if something like this becomes mainstream. Like if someone was watching this video for the first time, they would not be able to make it that this was a deepfake. So crazy, right? My mind is literally blown. And I think this was posted in OpenAI or ChatGPT group on Reddit a few days back, and I wanted to cover it, but I'm glad I'm able to cover it through the video itself. So let me know what you guys think about this. I mean, this is insane. I don't think this should be allowed to happen. Anyway, so the next item in the agenda is Altman and Nadella join the AI safety board. Now, what is AI safety board, right? So it's basically a bunch of people in the top companies coming together to kind of regulate and advise on the safeties of using AI. So it seems that the Meta and Twitter representatives weren't present. I don't know if they were invited or if they're part of the board or not, but it seems they weren't present. So I'm assuming they weren't. And it's kind of shocking that Elon Musk isn't a part of this, given that he works very closely with the government, and especially building like electric vehicles and literally space instruments of sorts, right? So either way, so they raised some funding, and it seems that they are kind of trying to build a strong model. Now note that their recent release of Grok 1.5 and their open source release of Grok 1, the initial one was only trained in 6 months, and Grok 1.5 I think was trained in 9 months or so, and it's almost as good as GPT-4. So given that they're raising this funding, they probably want to build like the best model in the industry if they are aiming for AGI. But if you had followed the whole drama that happened with OpenAI and Sam Altman, I'm kind of disconnected from that, so I need to learn what happened there. You will notice that Elon Musk has like a propensity to build AGI, and he knows that he'll need funding, millions, right? Billions and millions. So I'm assuming that he is trying to build AGI internally one way or the other, and hopefully for the good of humanity. Like if you look at Mark Zuckerberg, he's clearly said that he's going to open source AGI if they build it. They are doing the real work of open sourcing things. For me, Elon Musk is just making noise, primarily because even if he wanted to open source Grok 1.5, I mean, if you really wanted to open source something, you should have open source Grok 1.5 when they released it. So I'm pretty sure there is like a angle of money behind whatever he's doing at this point of time, and I don't blame him running a company. It's just the fact that he's kind of screaming open source at all points of time and not following through is what is disturbing, right? So again, the next item here is a news anchor powered by AI. Now, I'm not going to talk about it in depth, but there is a news anchor that can give you notifications and stuff like that. Honestly, even products like Perplexity can do this. The interesting one, so Human AI had terrible reviews, and Rabbit R1 seems to have received good reviews, at least the initial ones. So I think a couple of YouTubers covered this, and it's currently not shipping in India. And if it did ship in India, I would probably buy it and show it to you guys. Now think of all of these devices as first versions of everything from the design standpoint, from the usage standpoint. It's basically at this point of time, what they've done is that they've taken the software logic and they've created a device so that you can take outside with you. Now, why won't you take your smartphone with you? Smartphone can do way more things than this, right? If you build an app that can listen to you, summarize your meetings, I would definitely use smartphone than using this. So I don't know, at this point I don't really feel like getting one of these devices. It's going to be more annoying, and it's going to turn out to be one of those things that I keep on my shelf and never use. So I'm not going to invest on this right now. But honestly, from what I've read, the reviews that have come in are not too bad, and people are finding this decent. So it shows promise, but it's not there yet. So don't put your money in it if you're really, really waiting for the best version of it. And yeah, talking about the 2023 AI order, this was the news. So a Chinese company launched an AI model that is apparently better than GPT-4. They call it Sense Chat Lite. The model name is ReReason SenseNova 5.0, and it kind of is multimodal, so it supports image, audio, video, and so on and so forth. Has all the capabilities that GPT-4 has, but it's better than the GPT-4 itself. You can see the benchmarks that they're talking about here. Now, I don't think there is any documentation in the email or the article, but you can, based on what it's talking, it has 10 billion tokens, 200k context window, and apparently they're selling it as it's better than GPT-4. If it's 10 billion and it's better than GPT-4, then it's insane. You can see this is GPT-4, and this I suppose is their model because this is their model, and you can see this basically means it's beating all of these models in this benchmark. Now obviously this is misleading because if this is Claude, I don't see, is this Claude or Cloud, because I can't see clearly. It says gain, I believe. But either way, it's comparing with Llama 3, GPT-4, and GPT 3.5. And you can see on the right here, it's beating it on all the benchmarks. I kind of find that shocking, and I don't know if this is open source, but they kind of talk about a bunch of different parameters. Yes, so it's gain and not Claude, and it beats a bunch of models across a bunch of different benchmarks here. And they also kind of generated some samples on the screen here. So these are, I think, the images that are generated by the model. So very cool. Again, I'm not going to read through everything here because this is not topic specific, but rather like a quick overview on the AI news. But I'm going to share the link here just in case if you're interested. And I think that's all I want to talk about via this week. Again, if you're not a part of the newsletter, join it, because before this week's AI reaches to you, the newsletter will. We send it twice a week, and we keep it crisp, short, no sale, nothing. We just want to give you value, provide you the best of the content out there. I posted on YouTube a couple of days back. Before I close this, a new application was announced, and it's called the Draft One, which is almost like a platform that takes in the body cam footage of the officers and then converts those footages into police reports. So you can see this is the device, and then you can see this is the body cam video. It's transcribing it, and it's using GPT-4 in the backend to kind of generate like a report for the model itself. And you can see when the user clicks Draft One, it automatically generates the report for this. They apparently claim to save 3 hours a day with this, which is very interesting. And a bunch of, again, this was where they did conduct, I think, test in a Colorado police station. That's where they came to a conclusion that the officers can save at least 3 hours a day using this. But I think that's kind of all. One of the things that I did this week is that I made this post where I kind of talked about how I am focusing more on the input than on the output. And some of you dropped really good comments. I'm going to respond to some of the guys that I haven't. But I appreciate the fact that you guys are liking the content and appreciating the hard work that I'm putting into this, and I'm trying my best to give you guys the best in class content as much as possible. So thank you so much for supporting through the journey itself. I also want to give you more on the lines of personal updates. So I have been building my own AI courses, and that's how I'm making money, but I'm also kind of trying to diversify into different areas by building products and stuff like that. So you'll see some of that coming in this week. And I'm also trying to move away from doing more of Udemy based marketplace courses to build my own courses. So if you have some ideas with respect to what I can build in the course or what kind of courses I can build in the future, let me know, because it's going to help me a lot, and it's going to help me to serve you guys better, build better content for you in general. So the platform that I'm focusing on building is this GenAI Courses. If you go to get the course, you will find the course that I have listed so far. This kind of has everything you will ever need to learn about AI, and I'm still working on some of the changes for the platform. But if you have some suggestions with respect to what kind of courses you would want to see or what kind of content you would want to see, let me know. It'll help me build more customized content for you, kind of help me understand you a little bit more better. So again, that's all I want to talk about through this week's news. This platform also has 2 more things, by the way, before I go. So there's the AI news board where I post the articles of news that I read on a day-to-day basis. And there's also the prompt library that all the prompts that I've ever used in across all my courses. So if you guys are looking for prompt templates, that's something you guys will be able to find here as well. It also has like this nice leaderboard where it kind of shows the progress that you guys are making by either reading something, upvoting something, and so on and so forth. So, but yeah, I think that's about it for the video. I've also added some quizzes here where you can actually go into one of the quizzes and do actually take a quiz and clear your concepts. So, but yeah, I think that's all. Thank you so much for being around for the video. And if you did end up watching it for this long, I appreciate the fact that you guys are sharing more feedback. Thank you so much and have a great day.